right, is that we have these
Okay,
primary
boys,
roles.
what is up, guys? This is Cobb, tuning in real quick to the Ashes Q&A stream, man. I almost missed this shit, so we're on it now. That's all that matters, right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, fuck me, I'm not even recording. Let me turn on my screen recorder. Boom, there it is. Current question, which I missed them reading out. Can you tell us your plans on how the summoner will interact with the other archetypes? Based on the class names, we can assume some things, but I think we'll want to know.
On the main active skills of your primary archetype. So when we think about a summoner,
I'm quite interested in this too. Summoner is one of the classes I wanted to play.
You know, summoners tend to portray their power through their pets that they summon, right? And that's what we all are accustomed to traditionally. So our summoners, they'll be able to summon pets. Those pets will remain permanently within the world until they're killed, right? And then you have to resummon them, so to speak. And the role that pet takes is kind of up to the summoner. They can take a more traditional tank role, a more traditional support role, or a more traditional DPS role. And they're going to have control over that when they, determine what skill points they're allocating to certain types of summons and how they're augmenting those summons and those augments will change the appearance of those summons. You have necromancer that might be summoning undead, and as opposed to the more traditional archetype pets.
That's cool. That's badass.
Really going to have a direction on what role they play, and
the aesthetic really matters with summoner,
because they get to direct how they summon, that additional pet. So in that regard, it's going to be up to the player. They're going to have the opportunity to be very versatile and play, multiple roles as a part of a party.
You mentioned earlier that, it's definitely rooted in the whole thing.
So I'm really hyped for summoners. I'm hoping that summoners get kind of temporary summons as well. Like, I really like the kind of play style of having multiple summons. It's one of the times that I quite enjoyed playing Demonology in WoW, was when you could summon like a bunch of imps, and all of the imps were DPS, and you could use Grimoire of Service, I think it was called, Grimoire of Servitude, something like that, where it was like a 2-minute cooldown, you could summon an extra summon, and then you had your primary summon, which was always active, and you had all these summons ticking at the same time. That was really, really nice, so when you pop cooldowns, you summon like a swarm of dudes. That kind of playstyle was really, really sweet, man. Let's see if they touch on anything like that. Right. It seems like the question kind of evolved while I was talking. Sorry about that, boys. I'll try not to talk over the questions too much and save my reactions towards the end, man. Okay,
the
next question.
One, and I love this username, Glorious DJ Penguin, asks, how extensive will gambling be? Tavern games or gambling halls? And will it be done with gold or an alternative currency specifically for gambling?
Is this actually a thing that's confirmed?
That is a good question.
That's a touchy subject, man. Gambling is rough to work into games. Age restrictions in certain countries and stuff.
A secondary currency that's utilized in the tavern games.
That makes sense.
Those have the ability to make unique purchases for cosmetics that are offered through a the secondary currency market, right? So you can,
and those cosmetics will have to be soulbound. They'll have to be unique to the account.
Your store, maybe there's like a ladder system with these tavern games.
You're not allowed to let anything that you can win from gambling have any kind of real world value. If not, man, you can't work gambling into the game, because of various laws. I remember Dota 2 got wrecked by anti-gambling laws and stuff quite a while ago, man.
The game.
Then I personally do wonder, can I bet on fights?
That's a good question.
Oh man, can you bet on fights, dude?
No, we do have a fighting mechanic that's obviously we have arenas, but we also have a unique component of the military node types.
Imagine the match fixing
through fighting. And that fighting might be between players, but it also might be between champions. The champions that the players acquire and then kit out over the month election period to participate in those fights. We did think about early on having a betting platform for players to predict who the winners of those might be. There's obviously a concern there that it can be gamed, but
yes, it can, dude.
I don't
People figure that shit out. It's a really cool idea.
Literally every system you play.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's a really cool idea to let people bet on fights and stuff, but then you'd have like people throwing fights to get a cut of the profits, and shit. It's like
question 7. Donaki Fam asks, will there be difficult content that is made for the more hardcore fan base for a challenging experience and perhaps cosmetic rewards.
Cosmetic rewards to hardcore content.
Absolutely.
I like that.
We talked a little bit about this in the past, and obviously those of you who haven't had an opportunity to check out our wiki, there is a great community-ran wiki by Lex, one of our community members, and it has a lot of information on this. But from a difficulty standpoint, and with regards to content, right? Obviously there's a scale there where players exist between players who.
Okay. I really just want to throw out there. I really hope that they don't do what WoW did, where they have like a normal dungeon, a heroic dungeon, and a mythic dungeon, and a mythic plus. It's like
one component of
reburning the same content over and over and over. I do not like that shit at all, dude. At all. I think it's really bad.
How AI will react to players who are performing better than what's expected, right? And that might, AI exists within this kind of like behavior tree of available skills and actions that a monster or a raid boss or whatever can react with, and some of those behavior trees might activate depending on players' progress through an encounter, and that can represent either maybe a much higher frequency of AoE abilities, depending on how many people are participating. It could, unlock specific type of like rage and recovery effects and buffs that the monster might do. It might incorporate, additional ads and additional ad classes.
Nice.
There's a lot of different things.
So the more people who are attacking the boss,
part of like the reaction of the world to the player.
The boss reacts to the amount of players that are attacking it and adapts. That is badass, dude.
That I think is going to be interesting.
I really like that. That's cool.
It's not just linearly scaling health in
right, because that's boring. I mean, I personally hate that type of scaling as a player.
That's really good, man. If they can pull this shit off, that's really cool.
Irrelevant. It's like, oh, let me slap on more hit points to this monster. You know what I mean? Okay, well, wait. How did he get more hit points? Like, if it's strategic and tactical, and it's something that's that's part of its behaviors, then that to me as a player makes more sense. Like, okay, I have incorporated an additional threat level to this monster, and it is reaching deep down in its strategic repertoire, so to speak, of actions that it can take, and it's reacting to that. Like, that to me feels better.
And the next question might be very emblematic of the subreddit as a whole, but the false adhesiveness 5 asks, do you worry that people will end up feeling disappointed in Ashes due to overhype, or is that just par for the course?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
We will be disappointed, but it's only because the expectations are so high.
There's a very fine line between hyping a game and being excited for a game. What I view hyping is where you are setting unrealistic expectations prior to a game's release. Like, this is going to be the savior of all MMORPGs, or
it's going to be the WoW killer.
I'm going to lose years of my life to this thing, or stuff like that.
I
think like
just say it, Steven.
First of all, I would never.
The WoW killer. Such a meme of a phrase now, you know what I'm saying? Every new MMO that comes out, is this the WoW killer? Is this the WoW killer? Oh, WoW's dying just fine on its own, man.
Try our best to live up to those expectations.
But
it's
true.
What we do with Ashes is every month we have a live stream. Every month we show progress. Every month we communicate with players on our Discord, on our forums, on
Which
Twitter,
is really awesome,
on
by the way.
Every social medium possible, and we try to answer questions, and we try to just keep people a part of that process. And I think that's what excites people who are a part of our community, because I think that type of interaction.
This is what they're doing right now.
You can find it here and there amongst traditionally
awesome.
indie developers, more so than the AAA companies. And that's not a dig at AAA companies. I'm not. I actively tell people, do not support Ashes of Creation with monetary purchases. Do not pre-order the game. We don't need that money to finish Ashes of Creation. If you want to support Ashes, by all means, we have those available, and we love and respect the players that do choose to do that. But if you're skeptical at all, just sit back. But
you know what he reminds me of? You know what Steven's reminding me of right now? Just to kind of throw this in there, he's reminding me of the Final Fantasy Online devs. Literally, dude. This is the kind of thing they would say. And for God's sake, man, this needs to become the fucking meta with developers. I'm sick of all this goddamn fake hype that people try to peddle for games when it's clearly they just want your goddamn money. You know what I mean? This genuine kind of, look, if we're not doing a good job, don't spend your money on us. This needs to become the new fucking meta, dude, because this kind of shit, man, MMOs in particular need this kind of attitude so badly, man, so badly. So let's go, man.
Be demotivating if you read nonsensical statements. But I would say hype can be, getting back to the question, hype can be a dangerous thing because you can set expectations above and beyond what's even attainable.
But it's so fun, dude, to get hyped.
I saw this.
It's worth the disappointment to get hyped, man. I don't even care. I love it.
It looked like Rob Stark.
It's like supporting your home country in the World Cup. You know you're fucked, but it's exciting to get excited.
The video was basically like, this game can be a 10 out of 10, but if you overhype it for yourself, it's going to feel like a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. So I would say, like, identify the concepts in a project that excites you, that you want to see innovated in the industry, and take that excitement you have and vocalize it through messaging, forum boards, Reddits, Discord, be part of the streams and follow that. And if you're not a person who has the patience to follow game development, because a lot of us don't, right? When I was a player, I didn't. So a lot of us don't have that patience. If that patience doesn't exist for you, sit back, look at other things, go play other games and come back when the game's ready.
I'm going to go to the next question because we're all...
Answer my question!
Otherwise, people are going
to... I asked one, dude. Come on!
Malicious03 asks,
fuck, it's not
can
me.
You share or tell us anything new about the development of the orc races, particularly the Vec? Dying to know what they'll look like in game.
We definitely released some concept art with the orc races. One of the things, excuse me, one of the things that's key about
I'm
going
to look this up real quick and move the screen.
Is that we want to make sure that we don't jump ahead ourselves in getting these races developed if we have to go back and change something that we discovered during alpha, right? So right now we're presenting both of the human races. We're presenting one of the elven races. We're presenting one of the dwarven races. The orc races you're probably not going to see until later in the year. And once you do see them, though, we will have begun.
Never been a big fan of the dwarf races.
Production on all of the races at that phase.
Okay. So then the next question.
Let's go.
Is from VManGman21. What is your opinion on expansions, making all previous content obsolete and effectively reducing the amount of meaningful content as opposed to expanding it?
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely seen that in other MMOs I played.
Yes, we have.
Key aspects of
I was talking about this just a couple of videos ago.
Combats this concern is all of the systems in some way, shape, or form are integrated with each other, and they all use as a conduit to be exposed from a content perspective in the game world, the node system, right? So as we think of expansions and how we're going to introduce additional content, essentially, we're thinking of how we can introduce that content through the node system. So whether that be a new area of the map or that be new points of interest, all of those are going to relate in some way, shape, or form to the nodes. And players as citizens utilize these nodes for many of the services that you would.
So it sounds like when they add expansions to the game, or when they launch like a huge major patch with new content, it's just going to add to existing systems. You know what I'm saying? Rather than introducing new systems that kind of invalidate everything that came before. Hate to use WoW as an example for everything, but it feels like WoW has a new system, whether it's Azerite or fucking whatever the new current system is with the jailer and stuff.
Treasure finding or social organizations, all of those things are still going.
And it just kind of deletes everything that came before, like the previous expansion just no longer matters at all. And it's all just about getting to endgame and partaking in the current expansion, Which is a problem.
One of the biggest things MMOs suffer from is new player acquisition. MMOs tend to do very well at launch from a momentum perspective, and they can, if they're a good game, they retain the players. And
as soon as an MMO starts losing players and not gaining enough new players to at least flatline,
world, they're
You got
entering
so many
into
problems.
these barren starting areas, right? And
Right.
there's nobody present there because the game population on a particular server has moved on to other areas.
Unless you have
The way
cross-realm.
that I've designed the node
Fake
system
community
to try
voice.
to combat that is that traditionally
I'll
you will
stop.
find on a new server that the nodes closest to the starting areas will tend to develop first and fastest because that's where the gaming population heat source is, right? Players enter into the world, they're entering in from these starting locations.
So you
As
enter
those
from a
nodes
random
advance,
place in Ashes, I
until they
think.
get sieged and destroyed and pave the way for new content, they will lock out nearby nodes from advancing beyond them, and they'll put them into this kind of parent vassal state. That brings players back to those nodes because they're citizens there, they have housing there, they have content that arcs out into the points of interest in the world. And so, 4 months into a server, you may have a metropolis that's spawned near the starting area, and it's a big hub of traffic, so that as new players enter into the world, they're entering into this massive hub of player activity. And the biggest selling point of MMOs, in my opinion, is the social aspect. And so what other MMOs have experienced when you enter into
True.
these empty areas is people are like, okay, I'm doing this old content, I'm trying to level up, and I have nobody around me, I have no guilds I can talk to, I have no friends I can meet up with. I'm just out here in this barren wasteland of a starting zone. And that is a real problem because you lose out on that social component. But having the node system in place and keeping that as a major funnel of activity gets to introduce those new players. And then we have systems that kind of complement that. We're going to have quest components and mentorship programs that kind of incentivize players to interact with those new players.
The mentorship programs are really cool in
Part
MMOs.
of the node system and
Really
get them
cool, man.
introduced into the social climate of the server they're a part of.
There's something nice about taking care of a
never
noob
see
as well,
that. It's just irrelevant.
I just want to kind of branch out and expand my thinking there a little bit as well. The difference between starting a new character on WoW, it's you see some people every now and then with cross-realm or whatever, and you level so fast because you're just trying to blaze through the content as quick as you can, because with WoW, the game actually begins at endgame. Everything before that is just kind of dicking around and I guess learning to play your class, but it's all kind of it feels all just a bit unnecessary and very, very sparsely populated. And anybody you meet along the way through Dungeon Finder, you're never ever going to speak to them again, you know what I'm saying? Which is a big, big fucking problem. But the biggest problem WoW has is attracting those new players. People look at WoW today, brand new players joining WoW, a lot more people leave WoW, pretty much, and have done consistently for years, rather than assigning up. So you have these aging populations, where, where the players leaving outnumber the players who are joining fresh, and it's extremely refreshing to be playing Final Fantasy right now, an MMO that is steadily growing, very, very steadily growing, and you meet little new sprouts all the time, man. That's what they call them in Final Fantasy, dude. This is the fucking most adorable thing I've ever heard. You got a little sprout next to your goddamn name icon that denotes you as a noob, as a new player, and you see new sprouts all the goddamn time, You're in dungeons with all new players right now who never played that dungeon before in Final Fantasy, and it's incredible, man. So I was actually watching a dungeon guide on YouTube just so I knew the boss mechanics. It was the second dungeon in the game, and I was the one leading the group around the dungeon. Oh, come this way, we need to pick up this item to defuse this barrier and this and that. And no one in the group knew what the hell they were doing, man. And it was oh my god, dude, I haven't experienced that in an MMO as old as that in so long, dude, in so long. A full group of players that didn't know dungeon mechanics for the second, the second dungeon into the game. You know what I mean? It was crazy. It made me hyper nostalgic, and it was a lot of fun, man. So yeah, having that influx of new players constantly coming in and having things like mentorship programs and funneling them towards that social experience as quickly as possible, I think is so crucial, man. So I think that Ashes is really on point with this, and I really, really hope that they pull it off, man. Okay.
An investment, a time investment, and that plays.
Let's actually just skip to the next question, because I rambled over most of his answer.
I'm gonna move on to the next question.
Next question.
Lightboard asks a similar question to question 10. How can you ensure that open world PvP will not eventually make the game unplayable for small guilds and individuals?
We have a very good deterrent to open world PvP from a PK standpoint, right?
If you gank a lobby, I think you get fucked in Ashes. Especially if you kill them multiple times. Also, bounty systems exist.
open world PvP through our flagging system. And you have a non-combatant state, you have a combatant state, and you have a corrupt state.
And you can flag
the
yourself.
The state is when two combatants they're fighting each other, right? They're flagging against each other. They become purple, right? And at the end of that fight, you don't get any corruption if you kill a purple player. But if you kill a person who's not participating in combat, who is just standing there, you PK them, player kill them, you're going to gain corruption. Corruption is a very, very negative, bad thing to have. You can lose your completed gear.
Yeah.
You take like 4 times the normal death penalty. You accrue debt XP at a much faster rate. You start to decline in your PvP efficacy, right? So your skills start getting modifiers that decrease their effectiveness.
That's painful.
That's just going to just to be frank, and this will have to be tested, and people will experience this through the testing. And I'm open to making sure that what my goal
just ganking Care Bears sounds real fucking bad in Ashes, man.
On a frequent basis
will
work. We can amend some of these things, but the idea is that, like, if it's a moment of passion, if it's like a moment of pure opportunity and you're willing to take the risk, you can PK another player.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be something that can be done repeatedly and by a large group of players. There's a bounty hunter system. That's a cat and mouse type game where bounty hunters will constantly see the location on the map of red players, of corrupt players, go out and hunt them, take their gear from them. So it's like, this is going to be something that is.
You can lose your gear, bro, if you get corrupted. Man,
systems that players can participate in, whether that be castle sieges,
that is crazy.
Sieges,
that is crazy.
Guild wars, node alliances and wars, like arena systems. These are things that caravan system. These are things that players can opt into if they want to participate in PvP. And I think that's a good way to go, because again, those systems all have.
I just want to point out the way that he worded it sounded like you can flag yourself for PvP, and that's okay. It means that you can fight and kill other flagged players, and you don't get like some kind of corruption penalty. And that's all well and good, but he also made it sound like you can just kill someone in a moment of passion and you don't give a damn about attaining some corruption. So I think that's really important too. I don't want to get ganked by some fucking asshole, right? Who's like fighting me over like a mining node or something, kills my ass, right? And then unflags himself for PvP like a little bastard, okay? I want to be able to hunt that guy down and fucking stomp. I want to be able to mutilate somebody like that, teabag the shit out of them, spit on the goddamn corpse, and I want that to be an option, you know? I don't want people to be able to game the system by like ganking your ass and then, oh crap. Next question.
I think this is going to be then the last question.
Last question.
Breakfast Libertarian. Each metropolis node has a superpower. For instance, scientific nodes allow teleportation between parent nodes and any of its vassal nodes for its citizens.
That's OP.
Can you tell us any of the other node type superpowers?
Yes, this is important. This is important.
You know,
because you don't want a node meta to develop too strongly.
The other nodes, like if I say it here, you know, I'm gonna be.
I want to see these node buffs getting buffed and nerfed all the time, man. This thing has got to be shifting.
Some of the other things that we've been thinking about.
What are they thinking about?
Is with, let's say, the divine node, for example. We've thought about incorporating a structure of catacomb-based dungeons that are like ultra difficult, almost Iron Man mode type, that come with the that's essentially the superpower of the divine node.
That's good.
You know, just to kind of give a little tidbit there. That might change. So
and the reason I like that idea is because once those dungeons have been farmed out and enough people have the gear, interest in maintaining that node will actually dissipate and people will want to eventually move on to the next node. You know what I mean? So that's good. You don't want the same cities to exist on the server for years at a time. You know what I'm saying? Huge world PvP events will happen when people want to shift node, and that's really, really cool.
And it's something that is going to essentially kind of change and be procedurally built as well, so it can be different across the different divine nodes.
Can you share any more? Come on, dude.
It all sounds very interesting. We have about 1 minute left. I'm gonna quickly squeeze in the last question, because I do think it's a good one. You said before, Minecrafter 338 asks, you said before that Ashes of Creation is not for everyone. Can you please describe what we cannot expect from the game?
I think you can safely not expect that this is going to be a trophy for everybody game. I think that is there's plenty out there on the market who rewards. You logged in. Congratulations. Here's your trophy. Oh, you walked a few steps and you made it to the next point. Wow, look at you. Like that. I don't think that's going to be the mentality of the game.
I don't think anyone has ever been interested in that. Congratulations, you've reached level 5.
I played. I'm not even going to name the game. I'm not going to name the game. But
achievements pop up. It's like, man, get the fuck off my screen, dude. Stop condescending my ass, dude.
All you was click a button on the right hand of your screen, and it would run your character, auto path you from quest to quest. And
I know which one you're talking about.
I was like, what? All right, I'm gonna go get a drink. I'll be back in a little bit. Let me know when my quest is finished. It's like,
what the fuck?
Come on. I think that at the end.
Oh, is that Black Desert Online? People in the chat are saying Black Desert Online.
Who have never experienced what it's like to play a difficult MMO and to feel that sense of accomplishment for work done, to have something that is introducing you to a large number of players from a persistent world perspective, get you integrated into a guild. Like, there's a whole generation of Fortnite players and Minecraft players out there who, especially on the Minecraft front, they've touched the surface of what an MMO can be, but they've never felt the MMOs that many of us as MMO communities have felt 10, 15, 20 years ago, and our nostalgia of that first love experience. So
imagine not having ever played an MMO, dude.
Well,
what the fuck?
Let me just say this, that our aim is to kind of bring back that feeling we had, and it's a difficult thing to do, but that's our aim. We want to get back to what made MMOs a great experience, and I think I spoke on that enough.
There you go, man.
Well,
okay.
I think that's it for our time.
That was the final question, boys. That was the final question, boys. Okay, man. This was an insightful little QA. My question didn't get answered, man. I was actually posing the question in this subreddit, hoping that I'd get selected. My question went something along the lines of, do they plan on attempting to effectively prevent metas from developing too strongly? Because that's a big issue in a lot of MMOs. The game doesn't shift and change enough to kind of keep the meta in flux. Or it has the opposite problem where you get a game like WoW, and if the devs just so happen to decide in one expansion that your spec is going to be shit on, and you won't be able to compete in arenas, you're going to be trashing raids, your spec is useless, it's useless for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, metas are a real problem in MMOs, you know what I'm saying? And I think I'm going to do a video on that soon, actually, just discussing that and talking about possible fixes and see what you guys think. It'll be a really interesting one, I think, to just have a chat about in the comments. And I was hoping that answered that, man. I'm hoping that answered that, because it's a really tough problem to solve in MMOs too, you know? The MMO player base, Jesus Christ, are they good as a hive mind at just breaking the game and just figuring things out and really min-maxing kind of en masse, you know? Which is all well and good. It's not something that you can really get salty about, because it's like what are people going to do? You know, people are going to figure out the most efficient way to achieve their goals. And that's kind of that. But I'd like to hear some ideas on how this can actually be prevented. So I was hoping my question will be answered, man. But yeah, interesting QA. Good shit. I hope that they keep this stuff up. Keep on talking to the community, man. I know Ashes is probably more than likely going to be a kind of 2023 kind of release, probably, as a video game. But you know what, man? We got New World coming out in a couple of months. We got Crowfall coming out next month. I'm currently picking up Final Fantasy, see what that's all about. I'm enjoying it so far. So we've got certain MMOs to digest in the meantime, while we wait with bated breath to see what Ashes can do, man. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know any thoughts or queries that y'all got while watching this QA down below in the comments. Get some good old discussion going. I shall catch all of you guys just a tad bit later.